While the music's playing, I'll be right back. Morning. Had to get my trusty tape measure. And thank you for coming back, Katana. We're going to get started doing a few things that have to do with real life. As most of you know, we would be working out in the garden right now, getting the garden ready, and we would have probably planted our seeds. So I'm going to show you where we're at with our plants that I've been keeping track of. First of all, something happened, and this kind of stuff will happen where stuff will fail. We've got two plants in here that are celery, and this one actually started to rot a little bit on the one side, and so we're actually down to just one good plant. But what I'm going to do here is exactly what you're doing virtually in the virtual lab, and that is getting a measurement of our plant here to see what's going on. And then we've got a couple different, I think, Thursday we were at 5 inches. Now we're at about 5 1/4 inches on the one plant. And we're about 5 on the other plant. And so whether these will survive or not, I'm not sure. And don't know exactly, because I've never done this before. We learn things as we're going. Obviously, this grew from the base of a celery plant, but it's not looking as healthy as it was. So that's a little bit discouraging. We'll kind of figure out what is going on. Be more specific. It still didn't let you on. You're talking about, I've had people turn that thing in already. So are you talking about being able to get on the lab? If you're talking about being able to get on the lab, the first link on Google Classroom, it's got to be a problem with whatever you're using at home. Still scratching my poison ivy. It's got to be a problem with your tablet or whatever. What happens is when you click on it, you'll get a screen that says enable Flash player, and you have to click yes, or you have to load one up if you don't have one, I don't know if you don't. Maybe you don't have a computer, a regular computer in your home. It should work. I can see it not working with a phone. It should work with a tablet. We'll see. What I just did by measuring that plant is literally what you're doing in that virtual lab. You got lettuce, radishes. What was the third one? Well, one of the things, just so some of you guys understand, You need to make sure that you're logged in as you on your tablet to get into the Google Classroom. If you're not logged in as you, then you need to re-log in. Otherwise, it won't work. What you need? I apologize.
Hi, kids.
That's Mrs. Suriani there. We have a whole office set up here in the sunroom. I've got a 6-foot table, and my daughter's got a 6-foot table with her computer and all her schoolwork. A lot of work going on in this room, and she needed to grab something real quick. So I understand. iPhone 11 and tablet, and it won't work on both. I'll tell you what I want you to do if you can. If you're able to take a screenshot of whatever you're going and whatever you're seeing to the point where it won't work, take a screenshot of it and email it to me, and we'll try to figure out we'll figure out. We're trying to talk about getting on into Google Classroom and getting on this app. I know I think Cadence was able to get on it. Trying to think who else. Maybe Ethaniel. And I can't remember if Ethaniel was using either a laptop or a pad of some sort. We'll have to keep trying. Okay. If you can't change anything, then you got to ask your mom to do it. Understand this, guys. We're not going back to school this year. They just announced yesterday that we're not going back to school. I'm assuming most of you have heard that. The government announced that. This is how we're doing school. This is basically how we're going to be doing school from here on out. You need to be able to access those things as best you can. Last Friday, there were second series of Blizzard packs that you were able to pick up. So I hope you went and did that too. Anyways, do the best you can with it. Like I said, I know some people can get on, so there's nothing wrong with the link. And I think I even had Mr. Nelson get on. There's nothing wrong with the link. It's something at your end, and usually it's restrictions. If you have parent restrictions and things like that on there, and Tristan said he can get on. We are going through the week of Memorial Day, May 1st to the end of the first week of May. This is how we do school. This is your grade. The assignments in Google Classroom are your grades, as well as the Blizzard packs. So the Blizzard packs were there on Friday. Nick, I'm glad you got full access to everything, but I thought you were saying that it wouldn't open up, maybe. So you got access, but it still won't open up that. Normally, if you guys remember doing any of these at school, and we do them 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I'll see if I can find a different version that might open up and post it as an alternative from a different company. See if it'll open any different. There's a couple other companies that we can use to see if it'll open as easy. It might end up being something that's more difficult. And so I may have to, from an educational standpoint, So I may have to change what I expect from you, but I will figure out a way for you guys to do an alternative assessment if it still doesn't open. The point of what we were doing is we were using that tape measure to measure the plants, and that's literally what we were doing virtually in that virtual lab, is using the different lights and measuring the height of the plants and seeing what kind of growth. Now, the other thing that we would be doing in the real world is we would be planting some plants, fertilizing some, not fertilizing others, seeing the difference in growth between fertilized and unfertilized plants, and using that as a lab experiment. How well does fertilizer increase growth on two of the same things? So, and plus have fun, get dirt underneath our fingernails, and do a lot of stuff like that. I also, it should be posted, there's a assignment on photosynthesis and respiration. There's a couple things that I wanted to cover with you guys. First of all, I wonder if anybody knows what this is. And I didn't want to do that. There we go. C6H12O6. Yeah, we would actually. So at this point, we would have had the garden prepped. We would have had things planted. And I want to show you something else that I planted. Actually, my wife did. This is a sunflower. And we planted it in a little tray, and it's gotten so big already. And that's nice and healthy. You see how big that stem is? And that we've transplanted it into a bigger pot. The next step after this, in a few weeks, when we know it's going to get warm enough, that we will actually plant it in the ground. That'll be the next step. Let me put my email on. Anybody know what that C6H12O6 is? By the way, that's 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, 6 oxygens. Let's see. Here is my email address. So you can send something to me and I'll have to respond. That's right, it's sugar. Actually, glucose is a little bit more specific, but glucose is in fact sugar. So if you wanted to put it into a scientific term, it would be glucose. Glucose is something that is made in this photosynthesis and respiration process. Remember, we're taking sunlight and CO2 and water, and we are producing glucose and O2. So we're basically making sugar and water. That sounds funny. If you guys remember in the beginning of the year, we talked about the different ations. Precipitation was one of them. There's all kinds. One of them was transpiration. Okay. All right. I'm not gonna open it up right now, Nick, because I'm in the middle of this. But as soon as I'll answer you back. Saturation. condensation, perspiration. But transpiration is something that happens on the leaves. And there's another thing that happens on the leaves too, and that is the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen. And there's some cells there that are called guard cells. And so these guard cells actually control the size of the openings that are underneath on a little leaf of a plant. And so underneath here, there are these little guard cells, and they regulate the amount of gases that will actually move in and out of a plant. And they're basically right there where, we're talking about transpiration and CO2 and O2 exchange, all that's going on. If you remember from 6th grade, another thing that we bring up is on this sheet is mitochondria. That's where most of the energy is produced for a cell. It goes to 11:30, and then language arts is at 11:30, so I'll only be a few more minutes. So sometimes a plant plants produce. I got to tell you something, and I'm sorry I keep getting distracted, but and I told you the last classes, there's a robin building a nest about 10 feet outside my window, and he just comes back with that 6th grade is at noon. It is 11:22 right now. I'm at noon. Language arts is at 11:30. All right, so one of the things, has anybody ever done some exercise, and I know you guys do this, where you just, maybe you're running and running and running, or doing something with your arms, and you get to a point where you just feel it start to burn. Okay? Feel the burn, right? And what that is that's actually a process called lactic acid fermentation. And we've all experienced that. And what it is, it's your muscles trying to gain energy in a different way, because your muscles can't get oxygen fast enough. Your muscles are being used so much, and your heart's beating the blood, you're breathing, your heart's beating, pushing the blood through your body, but the cells can't get oxygen quick enough to do what's proper, and it's actually snowing out. And so lactic acid fermentation actually takes place, and usually it's a temporary thing, but that's also something that's talked about on this assignment that I gave you, because that's not part of the normal cycle, but it's something that happens if the normal cycle isn't working. The normal cycle would be your body replenishes the oxygen in the cell. The cells get rid of the CO2 and wastes and brings in the oxygen. And so if that process isn't able to keep up, then you get something called that lactic acid fermentation. It's just something that is part of this assignment that we don't normally talk about. You guys know that oxygen is a gas. You should know what organelles are. Somebody tell me what organelles are, going back to 6th grade, and basically photosynthesis. So two things to go through here is, number one, try to get that lab done. If you can't, I'll put a substitute up here for you. Number two, as far as this worksheet, this is a multiple choice. You basically have questions on the top. You know, if you get stuck on one or two, you're down to one or two, you probably can either do a pretty good job guessing, or you get to the point where you're going to go, maybe I need to look this up and understand it a little bit more, and not just look it up for the answer, but look it up for understanding. In this situation, with a teacher not in front of you to help you, use your resources. And I don't know where to go from there. Does anybody have any questions before we go? I'm trying to understand what people are even writing, and I don't quite understand. Like I said, I will try to find a different company that has a virtual lab that maybe we can see if I can post that as a substitute, and it might actually work. Chances are, like I said, this is like homeschooling, so you have to have a lot of self-discipline, which means you got to do your work instead of playing video games. I'm sorry, but that means no Fortnite, no Roblox. And guys, you're getting a lot less, honestly, you're getting a lot less work than you normally would at school. Just work on it, get it done. And I understand it'll take you a little longer because you don't have that teacher, you know, giving you instruction or helping you through. Sometimes you got to figure it out on your own. So it might take you twice as long to do something. But, you know, you're getting substantially less work. This is hard for all of us. It really is. I really need some help with technology. So much of my stuff is on paper, and so I have to either go try to reproduce it or scan it into the computer, and this has been a struggle for all of us. Most importantly, and you guys probably don't believe me, but I really do miss you guys, at least most of you. No, I really do miss you guys. And I hope you guys are doing all right, and you probably miss each other too. But anyways, it doesn't seem like there's any questions, but please feel free to email me. Nick, I'll look at that email and see what you sent. And like I said, I'll try to load something different on. I have not seen Adam online either. If you guys have any classmates that you know haven't been showing up, get a hold of them and communicate with them. Tell them to get on so that it doesn't become the end of the year and they have nothing done. That would kind of stink. So I think we're going to listen to some bumper music while we get out of here in a minute. We're coming up on 25 minutes, and this will give, Mr. Murray does have a session, I believe. I don't know which grade or what class. But I hope you guys are doing all right. Hope you're staying warm, staying safe. Wear your mask, wash your hands. Keep your hands off of your face. We've learned a lot about this illness, a lot more than we knew a couple months ago. They were saying that it wasn't much of a problem 2 months ago, and then they said it was. And so, all right, I'm glad you know that yours is at 12:30. Make sure you get on for the other classes too. We'll talk to you guys soon.